After moving into a Victorian house with impossibly cheap rent, I couldn't ignore the landlord's odd warning, "Stay out of the room at the end of the hall on the 3rd floor." Naturally, that only fueled my curiosity. The house had its quirks, groaning walls, creaking floors, but the 3rd floor was unsettling. The air grew heavier with each step and the hallway seemed unnaturally dark. At its end loomed the forbidden door, its chipped paint forming an angry scowl. For weeks, I resisted the urge to open it, yet I couldn't stop staring at it late at night. It felt like the door was staring back. One night, unable to bear it any longer, I crept upstairs. Just as I reached for the knob, a faint, rhythmic thumping came from within. It wasn't the wind or settling wood. It was alive, waiting. For weeks, I obeyed the landlord's warning. Life went on uneventfully, but the door at the end of the hall gnawed at my mind. I would catch myself staring at it late at night, unable to look away. It was on one of those sleepless nights that I finally broke. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and my misplaced bravery, I made my way to the 3rd floor. The hallway was unnaturally cold, and the air seemed to hum with a faint vibration. I hesitated, hand hovering over the doorknob. Was it just my imagination? Or did I hear faint whispers behind the door? The knob was ice-cold beneath my palm, but it turned easily, as though the room had been waiting for me. Inside, the room was ordinary. Faded wallpaper, a dusty rug, and a single wooden chair in the center. The only oddity was the mirror on the far wall, tall, ornate, and cracked down the middle. Relief washed over me. This was it? Just a dusty, forgotten room? I laughed to myself, feeling foolish for letting my imagination run wild. But as I turned to leave, the door slammed shut behind me. I froze, the laughter dying in my throat. The room was suffocatingly quiet, save for the sound of my own breathing. Then I saw it. Movement in the mirror. At first I thought it was my reflection, but the figure was slightly off. It moved independently, tilting its head when I didn't, blinking when my eyes were wide open. Its grin spread unnaturally, stretching wider and wider until it seemed to split its face in two. I stumbled back, tripping over the rug and landing hard on the floor. The figure in the mirror leaned closer, its hands pressing against the glass as though it could push through, and then it spoke. "You opened the door," it said, its voice low and echoing. "Now I can open mine." Before I could scream, the lights flickered and went out. In the darkness, I heard the unmistakable sound of glass shattering. I don't remember how I got out of the room. One moment I was screaming in the dark, the next I was on the 2nd floor landing, gasping for air. The door at the end of the hall was shut tight and the house was silent. I convinced myself it had been a nightmare, though deep down I knew better. The house was different after that night. Shadows seemed to linger longer, and I often felt eyes on me when I was alone. But the worst part was the mirror. Every reflective surface in the house began to change. At first it was subtle, a faint distortion in the bathroom mirror, an extra shadow in the reflection of the TV screen. Then it escalated. My reflection would grin when I wasn't smiling, or remain frozen when I moved. I covered every mirror and avoided the 3rd floor altogether, but no matter what I did, I couldn't escape it. It was a stormy evening when the power went out, plunging the house into darkness. As I lit candles, the whispers began, soft at first, then louder, coming from the walls, floors, and windows. Footsteps echoed from the 3rd floor, deliberate and heavy, stopping at the top of the stairs. They descended slowly, each creak piercing the silence. When they reached the bottom, I turned and froze. It was me, or rather something wearing my face, its eyes unnaturally dark and its smile too wide. "You shouldn't have opened the door," it said, its voice dripping malice. I bolted for the front door, but it wouldn't budge. Behind me it laughed, a hollow, chilling sound. The candles flickered out, and I felt its icy breath on my neck. The police found the house empty the next day. My belongings were untouched, but there was no sign of the other me.